All right, so welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here talking about connection and attachment and how to build strong, healthy relationships with your child and with others in your child's lives is really important to me. And it's part of what I do when I work with families in one-on-one sessions and also in group programs that I run. So it's a pleasure to be here to share with you today. So the outline of this webinar, we're going to take a look at three things. We're going to look at understanding what is attachment. We're going to talk about why connection and childcare transitions is really important. And we're going to talk about practical strategies to help you and your child with smooth transitions into ECE. But first, I just want to start with this whakatauki, pupuia te kākano kia pua wai. Nurture the seed and it will blossom. And just as a seed needs the right conditions to grow, like warmth, nourishment, and time, children also need a nurturing environment to feel safe, secure, and ready to explore their new experiences. So we can help nurture our children and their relationships by being consistent, giving them reassurance, and this will help them with their transition into ECE. And transitions into care take time. Just like seeds don't just sprout overnight, typically, children need time to adjust to their new environments, the new teachers, people in their worlds in ECE. And some children will adapt really quickly, and while others will need more intentional support to make this change a really positive experience for them. And again, it takes a village to grow and support our children and our families. So we're going to talk about how you can lean on your early childhood professionals to help you in this transition period. Now, I come to you today with my own personal experiences of transitioning my children into care and also my professional experiences, because I had settled many, many children. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many I have settled into ECE before having to settle my own children into early childhood care. And what's really kind of cracks me up is that when I was settling my children into care, I didn't tell the early childhood centre that I was an ECE teacher, because I wanted to feel what it was like to be on the other side. And it wasn't till a few weeks in when my husband told me that I had to tell them that in fact I was an early childhood teacher. And so the process was very familiar to me. My children acted like very typical of how any child would adapt to change. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to be on the other side. So I'm bringing both my personal and professional experiences into this talk today. Now, feelings you might have when you're thinking about transitioning into your child into care, well, we don't just have one feeling typically. Often we have kind of a cascade of varying emotions and feelings around settling our child into care and even thinking about putting our children into care. So you might feel excited. Maybe you're just really excited to go back into some other part of your life. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's just having some downtime. Maybe you're feeling guilty. Maybe you're worried about how your child is going to be without you. Maybe you feel like you should be always the primary caregiver. Maybe you're feeling anxious. How will your child adapt? Are they going to be cared for properly? Will they be happy? You might be having feelings of uncertainty. Maybe you're really unsure about the care that you've chosen. Is it the right time? Is it the right approach? Maybe you're feeling sad. Maybe you're struggling with that idea of separation and feeling like you might miss special moments with your child. And maybe you have feelings of relief. You're looking forward to support. You're looking forward to routine and having a little bit more balance of family and professional life. I know for me, I had feelings of anxiousness. I wasn't sure about how my children would adapt, but I had a huge sense of relief that I would be able to have some time away from my children. Now, when we have one feeling doesn't discount, we have multiple feelings, one feeling doesn't discount the rest, we can hold multiple feelings at the same time. So I just want to really highlight that for you today, that you might have all these feelings, you might have one of those feelings, you might have 2 or 3 of these feelings, and one doesn't discount the other. We can hold all these feelings at the same time. Now, adjusting to ECE is a transition for both you and your child. It's a big milestone. And so it's completely normal to have a mix of feelings and emotions as you navigate this change together. Just like your child is learning to trust new environments and people, so are you. You are learning to trust these new environments and people. So transition takes time. I don't know about you, but anytime I've started a new job or met a new person, it's taken a while to get used to these things. And this is going to be the same for you and your child. So what we're going to talk about today, hopefully, will help you feel more confident and empowered as you approach this change and as you navigate it with your child. So first, I want to kind of just talk about attachment and the importance that attachment plays. So unlike other species you see here, so we've got horses, ducks, turtles, giraffes, and I think it's an alligator. Human infants are entirely dependent on caregivers for survival. So at birth, they come out and they're completely helpless. And over time, they develop the skills to take care of themselves. But this takes a really long time. So children rely on an attachment relationship to meet their physical, their emotional, and their developmental needs. So, for example, infants are born with that innate ability to form attachments to their caregivers, so because they recognize us, so that's why they cry and they call us into connection. Because as Emmy Pickler says here, relationship is all. It is a matter of life to the baby. So they call us in. They let us know what they need. And through early interactions, we build and deepen that relationship with child, like consistently. So the child lays the foundation and we have to reciprocate and respond to this relationship. So this is why talking about attachment theory is really important, but I just want to highlight that attachment parenting and attachment theory are 2 very different things. So attachment parenting, which is often people talk about, it's quite popular in the parenting world, is more about the style of parenting. While attachment theory is based on decades of research, it's a psychological theory that helps us understand how caregivers need to respond to children to help them feel safe, to build trust, so that the child can explore the world confidently. So it focuses on responsiveness, attunement, and meeting a child's needs. So again, as we go into attachment theory, we're going to focus on psychological. It's a psychological theory. Trip on my words. And it's the dynamics of caregiver and child relationships, because the child knows how to pull us into attachment, but sometimes as adults we can get in the way. So attachment focuses on how the adult responds to the child. So it really does highlight the significance of secure, attuned care where a child feels safe. And they feel safe by knowing that they have a reliable caregiver that's going to be consistent. So John Bowlby, he is the kind of the father of attachment theory. He was a psychologist and a psychiatrist, and he proposed that children are biologically wired to seek closeness for protection and survival. And so when they have a trusted adult, they're more likely to go out and explore the world, and when they need something, they will come back in for comfort and reassurance from their caregiver. Now, in the first instance, it's the parents, mum, dad, or a guardian that will be that attachment figure, that main attachment figure for a child. When a child enters ECE, they still need that secure base if the parent is not there. So a child needs that to form a trusting relationship with a new caregiver who can offer the same level of comfort and safety to them. So the child's circle, as we call it, expands, and they are able to trust more than just one caregiver. Now, we know that after decades of research, when a child has a secure attachment figure, they are more likely to trust in relationships, know that they are loved unconditionally, know that their physical, emotional needs will be met, that they can count on you, and that they're valued. And all these things support learning. All these things reduce that cortisol level in children so that they feel safe and feel like they can go out and do what they need to do, which is play and explore and learn all the beautiful things that they can. So first, we as parents start as that attachment figure. And then when we transition into, the child transitions into childcare, the ECE teacher becomes that attachment figure for your child. One of the common concerns that parents will have about their child entering childcare is the fear that their child will become less attached to them and potentially will prefer their caregiver over the parent. I've heard this numerous times from parents. So one thing to note here is that attachment is based on trust, not constant proximity. So children can form strong attachments with multiple people and caregivers when you're not around, because they learn that different relationships can step in when you're not there. So first we see a child start with what we call a didactic relationship, which is the caregiver and child. And over time, a child learns that they can have multiple relationships. So for example, here's an example of an attachment hierarchy is what we call it. So the first year, this is just an example, the first year babies are deeply attached to their parent, their caregiver, and as time goes on, they begin to notice that when they engage consistently with other caregivers, like extended family or early childhood teachers, that they can rely on those people. And when you, the parent, comes back into view, you become their main attachment figure again. So children are really good at understanding who goes where and when. So it is important to know that children look at us adults for social referencing as well. So they want to know if the parent feels comfortable with the next person in line, and the next person in line, and next person in line, it's all going to help them feel safe and secure. Now, why is attachment important in childcare transitions? Well, it just is important because relationship is all to the child. Sometimes we can look at ECE care as being where children learn, and a lot of the time there is a desire for our children to learn, I don't know, like academics or, just learn, constantly learning. But the thing that we need to get right first is that for children to feel safe to learn, they need to know that they have a reliable and consistent caregiver available to them. Because that is when they have that's when they can go out and explore. So attachment is important because it acts as that foundation for confidence and emotional resilience. It helps them manage stress and navigate new environments. And, often in ECE, it's a different environment, and it's probably unlike other environments that they have been in. So they need that confidence to manage these new environments. Also, it supports social, emotional, and cognitive development. So children learn from doing, obviously, but they learn from the relationships that surround them. So attachment is just so important. Attachment is the base. Now, when we look at Te Whāriki in New Zealand, which is the New Zealand ECE curriculum, it starts with wellbeing and belonging. And this is the base. This is the base. We've got to get this right first so that when our children go off to do that really deep, complex learning, they can do that with confidence. Now, strong relationships help children adjust to feel safe in new environments because they know that their caregivers are available and that they will return. It helps them to adapt with change, every day in ECE looks a little different. And when they know that they have that safe and secure caregiver in ECE, they will adapt to that change with greater confidence. They will build relationships with new caregivers more easily. So what we want to be saying is that a child, when they're transitioning, starts with one teacher, and they build that really strong relationship with at least one teacher. And when that's secure, the child's going to have more capabilities to create other relationships with more and more teachers. But it starts with one. And really it starts with that one relationship where a child has complete dependence on that adult, because it's dependence that leads to independence. In the Western world, we've got it a little mixed around, where we think independence leads to independence, but actually a child needs to be dependent completely on an adult at first. So as we see here, we've got an adult. The child needs to be dependent on that adult so that they can go out to explore and then come back and keep doing that. Because dependence looks like seeking comfort when they're feeling unsure and overwhelmed. And often when a child transitions into care, they will have a lot of those feelings of feeling unsure and overwhelmed. So they will seek that caregiver to be dependent on them. And they'll want to check in with that trusted adult before they go out and explore. And they want to know that they can return for support if needed. This is what dependence looks like. And this is very healthy. And our children need to be dependent on us first before independence comes along. Where when our children feel independent to go off and do all that beautiful learning, it's because they know their needs are going to be met and they feel safe to explore. They know they have a secure attachment that will help them learn and help regulate emotions and manage stress where needed. And over time, this continuity and consistency leads to increasing confidence and independence. So you'll notice with your own child, when they're babies, they're just completely on you all the time. And as they grow, they might spend a little bit more time away from you, and then it gets long and long and long and long and long. Now, I've got 11-year-old twin boys, and I might not see them for an hour now because they can go off and explore independently. But in those early days, in the first few years, they needed me quite a lot, and they needed their ECE teachers quite a lot to feel safe to go and explore. So understanding that dependence is really important for independence helps that, because sometimes people will say, oh, they're too dependent on a caregiver, they're too dependent on me. Actually, it's a great thing, because eventually it will lead to independence, but we sometimes can't rush that. We have to give our children time. So now let's look. We've talked about what attachment is, why it's important, and now we're going to look at practical strategies. So it's important to prepare yourself, because as we've mentioned, you're navigating a big change too. So acknowledge your own feelings. Know that it's okay to feel a mix of emotions. Give yourself permission to feel the feels. And it's going to take time. You might like to talk to other parents who have been through the process, maybe at the ECE environment that you have chosen. So acknowledge those feelings. You need to acknowledge them so that you can manage them, because your child is going to rely on you to be that secure and stable, confident base. And if you're not feeling confident, it's going to impact how your child navigates their transition. So I would say get to know the childcare environment really well. Ask to see their policies, talk to the teachers, get really familiar. Do a few visits yourself, maybe even without your child there, so you know that the choice that you've made is one that feels good to you. Plan with your ECE centre a gradual transition. Now, most centres will already have this as part of their transition policies. Typically, you don't just drop off on the first time you visit the centre and see it in 5 hours. Normally, it's a gradual process where you will visit with your child, and those visits get longer, and you might pop out for a moment and come back in. It's a process. So plan that gradual transition, and be aware that for some children, they will need a longer transition than other children. Some children just take a little bit longer, and that's okay, because we're all different. So we all bring our own personalities and temperaments into this change, and so do children. So planning a gradual transition that suits your child is important. And please communicate openly with your caregivers. As teachers, we love to know what's happening for you. Where are you feeling unsure? What clarity and confidence can we provide you to feel more okay with this change? So do not be afraid to share what's happening for you. I can tell you that ECE teachers have seen it all, and we are here to support you. We know it's part of the curriculum, and it's part of most centres' philosophies is to support whānau, so please communicate openly. Your ECE centres will support the transition process, and as I've said, there will typically be a gradual settling period. If there isn't a gradual settling period for your child, to me that's a red flag, and so I would have a good discussion with your ECE centre about how you can facilitate a gradual settling period. Most centres, especially for children with rooms with under twos, children under two, will have a key teacher or primary caregiving approach. So this is basically a consistent and responsive caregiver within your child's environment that will meet their needs. So maybe they'll do the sleep, the nappies, communication with you. And it's really helpful because it will help you feel safe and secure, and also your child. As we've mentioned, your child needs to build first a really strong, sturdy relationship with one person, and then they can go off to do multiple attachment and relationships with other teachers in the ECE. Your ECE will have consistent routines, and they will encourage you to also have consistent routines about when you're dropping off your child, the days in which you drop your child off, and how the day will unfold. And routines help children to feel safe and secure and lower that cortisol. So that is very commonplace in ECE. And they will want to work in collaboration with you. So that's why there's documentation, there's messaging, all the things. So teachers want you to get involved and collaborate with you. So I can't underscore that more highly. It's very, very helpful for everyone involved. So practical strategies for a smooth transition. Talk positively about the transition. And I know that sounds a bit, not surprising, right? But sometimes we can have conversations around children about how we're worried and what we're concerned about. And our children are picking up on that. Even when they're young babies, they are taking in our tone and our mood and all the things. So if you can talk positively about the aspects of the environment that they're going into, that it will be very beneficial for them. You can use books. You can make social stories. I'm a big fan of social stories, especially for toddlers, to help them learn about what to expect and talk positively about their teachers and the environment. Create predictable goodbye routines. Children tend to settle pretty quickly once you drop them off. There'll be a little bit of upset because they love you so much. But typically what we see is within kind of 5 minutes, children have settled down and they're with their ECE key teacher and they're calming down and they're getting into some sort of play, reading a book or something. And so when we do predictable goodbye routines, it's kind of a set way in which you want to drop your child off. And it's best not to prolong these times. So you might want to sit with your child into care for maybe 5-10 minutes, do a nice activity, and then say, Mum's going to work now, and when and Sally's going to look after you until I get back. I'll see you later. Give them a kiss and a cuddle. Now your child is going to feel sad, and that's part of the process. But passing your upset child to their key teacher and saying goodbye and leaving sometimes is the best thing that you can do. And your teacher will let you know if they're not settled, and they will ask you to come back in if it's taking too long, if they're extra uncomfortable. Validate your child's feelings. Now, your child's probably going to have really big feelings because they're going to miss you. You're their favourite person. So let them know that it's okay to feel sad and that you're going to miss them too. And this will help them to learn strategies to process that feeling and know that it's okay to have these feelings. And communicate with your teachers your child's preferences. So it might be that your child doesn't like their back rubbed, but they like their hands stroked. And talking about how they like to have their bottle, or how the temperature that they like their food, or how they go to sleep best. Communicate those with your ECE teachers, because they can put that into the care that they provide for your child. So strategies to support your child, goodbye rituals, as we've said, how you say goodbye, and also reconnection rituals. So when you come back, how are you going to support that reconnection? One of the best things you can do when you're reconnecting with your child after pickup is the first thing you do when you get home with your child is just love on them hard, fill up that emotional bucket. Just like maybe it's you're reading a book with them, maybe it's you're doing their favorite activity with them, even for 10 to 15 minutes will help them feel more calm when they're at home. Because sometimes children get a little bit more unsettled when they get home because they're really wanting time to reconnect with you. You can also use transitional objects. So if your child has a favorite blanket or a dummy, or a snuggly, that helps them when they're upset, it's a great idea to have an item that can also go with your child to care. Most ECE centres will have kind of rules around when a child can have their transitional object. So it might be they can't walk around the playground with their transitional object, like their dummy or their cuddly, but they can sit on the couch and have a snuggle with it. So transitional objects are really great. And the more they smell like you, their primary caregiver, their parent, the better, because your child gets a lot of reassurance from your smell. So transitional objects are wonderful. Now, it's important to remember that every child is different. Every child is going to adapt to change differently, and this is impacted by their temperament, their personality. And so some children are going to settle really quickly into care. I have had some children that you kind of just go, whoa, like that was surprisingly easy. And other children it's taken weeks for them to feel safe and secure. And just because a child is taking a long time to settle in, it doesn't necessarily mean that the ECE centre isn't doing what they need to do, or the child isn't making progress. It just, for that child, it's just taking longer. And again, I would say that communication and collaboration with staff is really important here. Sometimes it's trying new things, but eventually they all settle. Children thrive on routine. So having consistent drop-off times and routines, and predictable schedules is really, really helpful. So the more predictable and familiar the routines are, the easier it is for your child to adjust. Again, lean on your early childhood educator, right? They are going to help you understand how to manage this change. And we've done it many, many times. And so lean into that communication with them. And it's typical for you and your child to have big feelings over this time. Just is. It's hard to navigate sometimes. You might be putting your child into care because you have to, not because you want to. And so we're going to have big feelings about that, and your child is too. So it's okay to listen to your child's feelings, validate them again with yourself. Who can you talk to about navigating this change will be really helpful long term. But I just want to, say that relationship is everything for our tamariki. It's really important. So feeling safe in the relationship with the teachers that you have chosen to care for your children is really important. And because it will help your child feel more attached to them as well. But please know that your child's attachment with you, and is not going to be impeded by other significant caregivers coming into frame. You will always be their numero uno. If you're interested in getting to know more about attachment and how it plays out for tamariki, you're more than welcome to join me for Circle of Security, which I run on a termly basis for parents and teachers. And it gives you a lot of understanding about how to support your child. And it's just a program that I think every parent and teacher should do. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about attachment in 30 minutes, Angela.
Amazing. Thanks, Alex. If you wouldn't mind stopping your screen,
yes,
I have a few questions here for us to share with you. I'll just bring them over here. I absolutely support everything that you've said there, Alex. Having been an early childhood centre owner, teacher, manager myself for more than 30 years, I've certainly worked with a lot of children and families over those years and supporting settling, and it's just the most critical part of an ongoing, successful ongoing relationship is that initial settling and building a relationship. And as you said, the relationship is key. So if I could just add my little 2 cents worth here,
yes,
coming from that experience, my everything that you said, 100%, absolutely. And if I would add to that the settling visits are really important. There's a question about that we're going to answer in a moment, but the predictability and consistency of your routines coming into childcare will make a world of difference, because for children and also for adults, whether we like to admit it or not, predictability and consistency, we're all creatures of habits. It's everything. You think about it, you brush your teeth the same way every day. Every time you get in the shower, I guarantee you do the same movements in the same order. You wash your hair, you wash your body in the same way, right? It's predictable, it's comforting. And it's exactly the same for children when they are settling into early childhood services. So if you can create a routine when you are bringing your child into the service and settling them, so do the same things in the same order every time as much as you can. I'm talking about from the moment you get up in the morning at home and that routine that you have at home around changing nappy, having breakfast, getting dressed, packing the bag, getting in the car. Those routines are likely to be highly consistent. And then when you get to the early childhood service, create a consistent pattern of behaviour that the child can come to predict, because that predictability creates security for them. So we walk in, I sign you in, we're going to put your bag away, I'm going to come with you, I'm going to sit down on the floor with you, and we're going to read a book or do a puzzle or play for a few minutes together. In that space, so they feel you can start to feel more relaxed. We greet the teachers, good morning everybody, we're here. You know, you might share a bit with the teachers about their night. Hey, he slept really well, or he woke up super early, or I think he's teething a bit. All of those things that you're going to share with them. So while you're doing those things, your child is feeling your sense of security and feeling your comfort in the environment, but that routine is predictable. And then the critical piece that comes after that is when you say goodbye. And this is the part that parents often struggle with the most, understandably, because particularly when it's new, their child is likely to be clingy and is likely to be holding on and anticipating that moment of separation. It's hard for everybody. So it's super important that parents create predictability around that moment as much as anything. So where it can go horribly wrong is when parents linger for a really long time. So the child knows it's coming, but it's taking a long time for that moment to come. It's like ripping a plaster off, right? That it's coming, they know it's coming, but the longer that you kind of linger, the harder it can be for the child. And actually, it's really hard for the educators as well, because they're watching, they're trying to anticipate when the right moment is for them to come in and help support. And a really great educator will say, let me know when you're ready for me to come. It looks like it looks like you're ready to go. Shall I come in and support here? They will be asking you and they will be anticipating that. But if you can, as a parent, make that goodbye, like you talked about having a goodbye ritual, Alex, if parents make that consistent, that becomes less painful for the parent and the child, and more manageable all around, and the child can recover from that a lot quicker as well when it's predictable. So say goodbye. Tell your child, mum's going to work now, or dad's going to work now, we've got to get going. I love you. Kiss, hug, here's Alex. If Alex is your teacher, Alex is here to take care of you. I'll be back. Goodbye. And that's the moment, even though it might wrench your heart, but that is the moment you need to leave the room. If you keep coming back, if you don't go, it creates a huge difficulty for everybody, and it's really hard for your child. So that's my guidance to you. And as hard as it is, walk out that door, call someone if you need to, cry, do what you do, and if you need to, contact your teachers, the early childhood service, half an hour later, say how's he doing. And actually most early childhood teachers, when they can see that this is a really difficult time and you're still working through that, they will likely message you. They will say, he's doing great, all is well here. And early childhood educators who genuinely care about children won't allow children to stay really unsettled or, really not settling well. They won't allow that to go on and on and on. They just won't, because they want the best for your child as much as you do.
Yeah.
That's
great. I wanted to just tag on something which I didn't mention in the webinar, but I thought was really important. You must say goodbye to your child.
Always say goodbye. Yes.
It's so easy to feel like it's easier for your child to just slip out the door. And I've seen that numerous times where it's easier for the parent.
Yeah.
It's not easier for the child, because when the child realizes that you're gone, and they just go into panic frenzy. And so letting them know that you're leaving and this is what's happening can be hard as a parent, because as you've mentioned, you're going to see the big feelings, but long term it's better for the child.
It just breaks trust. All you do is break trust with your child when you sneak out. Please never sneak out. They're fine. They're happy. Look at them. They're okay there. They won't notice if I'm gone, and they just sort of slip into like Homer Simpson into the hedge. It's just too damaging for children. It really is. Please don't do it.
Yeah.
Can we just go to the questions, Alex? We've got a few questions. Caitlin's asking, how long should we aim for settling visits? Most centres seem to have about a week.
Yeah, I think it's quite common for ECE centres to have around 3 structured visits. Most of the centres I've worked in, that has been a guide. Where it hasn't been like a strict policy. And so I would, some children do fine on 3 visits, where, you do a visit where the caregiver stays, and it will be typically like an hour. And then the second visit will be where the caregiver stays for a period and then leaves for a short period, maybe for 20 minutes. And then the third visit is more likely to be like, maybe the caregiver leaves for 2 hours and comes back. And maybe in that 2 hours, there might be a nap or a meal time or something of the routine within that period of time. And for some children, that works really well. For others, they need a longer period of time. And so I would say it's probably really beneficial if you're going back to work, for example, to have probably 2 or 3 weeks where you talk to your employer about having flexibility, because it could be that your child needs shorter days to begin with, where they build up their capacity for a longer day. So you might start with maybe a 4-hour day, and then you build up 5, 6, 7, 8 to whatever you're needing to do, because your child is learning to navigate all this change. And so they need support. So it really is working with your ECE centre and figuring out what will work for your child. There are some children that are more sensitive, and so it's going to be more difficult. So if you think your child is more on the sensitive side, they will need more support. But we don't want to get into this habit where recently heard a parent saying that their child had 24 settling visits. Okay, that's probably too long, and that's probably more about the parent than the child. So we want to be working with the ECE teachers here to support your child.
I agree, Alex. Penny Brownlee, a smart woman has always been a strong advocate for infants and toddlers. She once said, it's think about, it's like moving in with a stranger. Would you move in with a stranger? So I think we need to think about our early childhood service as being completely new for your child. Everything about it is different from home, even and what they're used to. Even the most homely early childhood service that feels like a home and it's got soft furnishings and it's wonderful that it is still a totally new experience for your child. So they are coming to know the different smells, the food might be different, the people are certainly different, the habits and routines and the way people behave. And there's a whole lot of other children there that they probably don't have at home. So it's a really different environment. And so it's like, would you move in with strangers that you didn't know? Unlikely. You would want to get to know them a little bit first, and you'd probably have a meal with them and you'd spend a bit of time with them before you actually became flatmates. Well, it's the same for children, and I think that the more that you can spend a bit of time, because it's actually as much about you as a parent getting to know how things work here as it is for your child. I'm a strong advocate for, particularly for babies, if you can, to let them have one of their first sleeps in the early childhood service, where you as the parent put them into that sleep, into their bed, and you're there when they wake up. Because when you think about it, sleep is a really significant part of a child's life, even in the early years. And can you imagine going to sleep in a strange place as a little person and then waking up and your significant attachment relationship, i.e. your parent, is not there? I think it can be quite overwhelming for children. So I would consider that if you can as well. But that's great advice that you've given there, Alex. Look, I'm really conscious of the time. Caitlin's got a couple of other questions, but Caitlin, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to answer your questions in the chat forum that we have on Kebudel. We welcome you to join our parent communities. Caitlin's asking about some resources, which we certainly have, and about transitional objects. We've got blog content, we've got podcasts, we've got resources, you name it. We're here to support you in your parenting journey, and this is all available for you on Kebudel. So thank you, Alex, so much for your wisdom today. What you've shared with us has just been so helpful, and I know that as an early childhood educator myself, these are the exact things that I would love for all parents to know as they start to make that transition into early childhood services.